Welcome back, everyone. If you have a dry, brittle, real Christmas tree inside your home right now that's been dropping those needles all over the place, this video is for you, showing just how quickly those trees can go up in flames. According to the National Fire Protection Association, fire departments across the nation respond to an average of 230 fires each year that began with real Christmas trees. Those fires led to an average of 4 deaths each year, 21 injuries, more than $17 million in property damages. Just a couple of weeks ago, this house in Southwest Phoenix was heavily damaged when a real Christmas tree inside caught fire. The fire spread very quickly. This video came from the Phoenix Fire Department and shows what was left of that home. We also knew there were children inside, but they did get out in time. Travis was someone who can really show us just how dangerous those dry Christmas trees really are. T?
That's exactly right, Scott. I'm with Captain Forrest Smith from the Mesa Fire Department. And first, we want to show just how quickly a Christmas tree can catch on fire. And we are talking quick, folks, how those flames shoot up into the air. You sent us this video, Forrest, earlier. Tell us what's happening here.
Right, what we did is we wanted to give an example of what happens when you get a heat source, or basically a small flame, next to a dried Christmas tree. And essentially, as you can see, that fire actually took off from the bottom and worked its way up to the top and essentially just took off quickly. So with the spacing in that tree and just dry enough, it allowed that air to get to it and allow that fire to spread quickly. We're looking at about 30 seconds before that whole tree is consumed.
And when you're talking about a heat source, I mean, it could still be just a spark from the plug. It could be anything, any little thing, and boom, that tree is up in flames.
That's absolutely any little thing. I mean, we talk about, in fact, if you have any outlets that are nearby, any shorts in any electrical wiring from your lights, which is, of course, why we advise every year, each year, check those Christmas lights, make sure you don't have any frays or anything, as well as candles and decorations. So really, any type of heat source can just cause that spread. So that's where we want to really hit home.
And what amazes me about that is how fast it went up. We're talking, that was about less than a minute there for that tree to just be gone. Right. Okay, so falling needles, that's also a huge, huge warning sign, right? Talk about that.
Well, that's huge because we know just before Christmas what your viewers are doing is they're putting their trees up. You're obviously paying attention to it and you're keeping it watered. Well, what tends to happen is after the holidays, it tends to dry out a little bit.
You don't care about it as much anymore.
At that point, you're not really looking for the greenery. You're just taking care of the rest of your holidays there. Well, once those start to fall, we know we're dried out and you really don't have a reason to keep watering it. But what we're seeing happening is that people may be throwing those trees outside. Once they go outside, now you've created another fire hazard, especially considering the fact if you leave it by your garage or in the backyard next to any exposure. Any exposure being your house, fences, or anything else that you keep out back.
Right, I want to get to that point in just a sec, but earlier today we asked our EVB Live fans on Facebook if they had taken their tree down yet. Morgan Vanderwall wrote this: just took it down yesterday, and fortunately half the real tree is still in my house. Wonder how many vacuum trials it'll take. Now, Forrest, what is the problem with that there?
Well, the problem is that tree was probably kept in there just a little bit too long. Yeah. Because now by the time you have that little buildup of those needles in there, now we've obviously passed the point where it's dried and it's certainly a fire hazard. So like anything else, if you keep anything dried, stored like that, it obviously becomes a fire hazard.
And you have literally seen people with trees at the side of their house in the middle of summer?
Well, what happens is that you get busy with the holidays, and as you start throwing things out, we take care of our wrapping paper, all that goes in the dumpsters and that sort of thing. But once you get those trees or any other debris like that, you may set that on the side thinking, okay, as that dries out, it's going to whittle away, and eventually it may just disappear or go away. But no, what happens is you're basically creating kindling for a fire. And at that point, we've seen that. We've gotten calls in July, June, where it comes as a Christmas tree, and we're thinking, okay, a Christmas tree. Well, what happens is that sometimes those trees, in some cases, those trees were left outside, became a fire, spread up towards the eaves of a home, which could essentially lead to an attic fire.
And really, that's just as bad as having a lot of brush around your house that, you know, come wildfire season, that is a huge danger.
That's exactly it, because what's the great segue on that is the fact that during the regular times of the year, during the summertime, when we deal with wildland fires, what we've learned from our communities up in the north is that down here we have to also do what you call weed abatement, which tells us that essentially we have to make sure that you don't have dry brush around your home. Anything that you don't plan on continuing to grow, just dig it out, because actually what that does is becomes a fire hazard. And when we in the fire department are knocking down fires, part of the thing thing is that we have to protect these exposures, and all that does is create these ladder fuels and allows fire to travel.
Okay, and just to let our folks know too, there are plenty of recycling locations all throughout the valley, so just go to your city's website for more info. I want to talk about another danger, especially this time of year when it is really cold outside. People are turning on, their heaters and their furnace and what have you. Carbon monoxide, that is always a big problem. Just about 2 years ago, a family of 9 inside a home near Southern and Country Club in Mesa, they were exposed to carbon monoxide. They complained of becoming dizzy, and they had to be treated for breathing in fumes from a grill that was too close to the home's back door. Talk about the dangers of carbon monoxide this time of year for us.
Well, Dram, that just sounds so doom and gloom, and really the message here isn't to scare your viewers and that everything in the sky is falling, but it's just one of those other situations that you just want to be aware of. It's a simple solution. Mainly it comes down again to that carbon monoxide, and what that is that's the products of combustion. Mainly what that means is that when you have fossil fuels burning, the off-gassing of that is a combustible, odorless material that comes into your home, or it can come from your car or anywhere else, and actually creates this ability for you to, it takes away the oxygen in your bloodstream, which obviously leads to those feelings and sensations of dizziness and weakness. So essentially, this is what they would call that silent killer.
Right.
So what we want people to be aware of is just not using your oven as a heater. And it's more importantly, if you have any gas flow to your home, make sure you have a qualified technician who checks your furnaces or in your water heaters, especially if it has a gas connection.
And you can pick up one of these detectors. I mean, you said this was about 25 bucks, right?
Right.
So how often should you check it? Every year?
Well, what I would do is I would put it in the same schedule as my smoke detector. I would go through and check it every few months. And then also they've got test devices right there, so you can touch that and test. It also has where you can plug it in too, so the battery actually is the backup. So if you have power goes out, at least it goes on. And I tell you, what's really interesting is that just last week I was on a call where we did have a family that had one installed. It went off, and mom used her instincts and said, you know what, this just isn't right. So she called us out, and sure enough, we came in with our monitors, found the CO levels were up, and all it took was us airing the house out and them getting their furnace repaired.
Oh, what a huge, huge precaution. Forrest, always great to have you.
Thank you so much.
So much.
We appreciate your support there.
Well, let's send it outside to the plaza where meteorologist Rob Carmark says frosty temps will be heading back to the valley by the weekend. It's going to get even colder.